How you guys doing? Today we're going to talk about 8 films that I saw at the New York Festival this year and my thoughts on them, what I thought about each and every one of them. Should you go see them when they come out either later this year or next year on certain streaming services, or if you should go out and see them. Starting out at number 8, I have Jane Campion's new film, The Power of the Dog. Since her last film that actually won her an Oscar nomination was The Piano, and one of the bigger films that she's done in the past couple of years. This new film stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Kirsten Dunst, Jesse Plemons, and also Cody Smith-McPhee in this drama. The film follows two brothers that star Benedict Cumberbatch and Jesse Plemons as they own a ranch in Montana during the early 1920s. Positives for me on this film come down to Benedict Cumberbatch as being this kind of very masculine cowboy and also being kind of an asshole throughout the movie. It's very different from the past roles he's done, considering like even more of the friendly, like in the Doctor Strange and Marvel, and also even his previous roles that he's done before in other drama movies. He's more of like an asshole and more, I guess, disturbing in a way into the environment and in the story. And the second thing for me would be the cinematography. I think it's really well shot. Even though it's set in Montana, it was actually shot in New Zealand, which I thought was very interesting and also really cool how they transformed the setting to make it look that way. And the main themes throughout the movie was Benedict Cumberbatch's influence on the people around him and the ranch itself, and basically about kind of toxic masculinity and how that was very present during the 1920s. And you could see it in his character and how he has this kind of back and forth with Kirsten Dunst's character, which plays the wife of Jesse Plemons in the film. I think the film and how it's directed shows the message well enough about how toxic masculinity kind of affects the workplace and the people around the ranch, like Kirsten Dunst, especially in the movie. But I didn't find it as terrifying as other people in the audience did, how they talked about it as being like this worst ever thing about how Benedict Cumberbatch. I just saw him mainly as kind of an asshole throughout the movie, but other people saw him even worse so, even though he damages even himself in the movie. Jane Campion likes to focus also on the subtleties of kind of toxic masculinity and how that affects everybody, especially the scene with the banjo and how Kirsten Dunst is playing the piano. He kind of interrupts her, and the camera even creeps in on how much of a presence Benedict Cumberbatch is in the film. I think he'll probably get Oscar nominated for this role, if not even win. But compared to the other films in the festival, I think this is out of the 8, this is the one that I was less excited about, and less, I think, when I came out of watching it, I think I was less impressed upon compared to the other movies that I saw at the festival. But I would give this movie a 7 out of 10, even though I think it's well directed, well shot, and well acted. But the story and how terrifying he's supposed to be didn't really land on me as much as other people that watched it. At number 7, I have The Lost Daughter, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, and this is her first directorial debut at the New York Film Festival, and also just as a director in general. She's a great actress already, and her brother is obviously known as Jake Gyllenhaal, another great actor. But this film also stars a great cast, which includes Olivia Colman, Jessie Buckley, Dakota Johnson, and actor Peter Skarsgård in this great casted movie by Maggie Gyllenhaal. The plot of this film is a little bit harder to discuss, considering it takes place back and forth between the present and the past. It follows Olivia Colman's character Lita as she's on this vacation, and all of a sudden this family comes in and kind of, I don't want to say interrupts her life, or she kind of becomes with them, like kind of conjoined with them as the story progresses. But it kind of follows her relationship with Dakota Johnson's character being this young mom, and how she kind of relates to that feeling, and her being this obviously older person now, and kind of going back and forth between her time as a young parent and being a young mom, and how that kind of relationship was formed and that connection goes between Dakota and Olivia. The themes about this film and around the film are mainly about how it is being a mom and kind of always being on edge as a mom, especially as Olivia Colman, as she's kind of bits and pieces are shown of her as she was a young parent, which is beautifully played by Jessie Buckley, which I think her performance I think should get Oscar nominated. I think she was the best performance throughout the movie, and her relationship with with her kids, especially since she's raising daughters as well, and it's just this constant theme about what it means to be, how hard it is, and what it means to be a mom and a great mom, and what are the difficulties as being a mom as well, and there's kind of a mystery around things that she did in her past that she's not too proud of, and that kind of affects the rest of the story and her relationship with Dakota Johnson, who is also a young mom. The main aspect of the movie that I really enjoyed was the thriller aspect and the mystery aspect between Olivia Colman's character and also between Dakota Johnson's character, because they were constantly kind of going back and forth about Dakota Johnson's daughter and how she got lost and then she was found, and about the doll, what does the doll mean, and then coming back with the past of Olivia Colman's and kind of which things that she's done in her past. That was the main interesting factor throughout the story and throughout the movie, and that's what constantly kept me interested. As the first film for Maggie Gyllenhaal, I think it was a solid first film. I really enjoyed it. I liked the performances a lot. Everybody was great in it, especially Jessie Buckley's performance. I thought the story was intriguing enough throughout the whole way, even to the very end. I really enjoyed the film. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I really think it's a solid first film for Maggie Gyllenhaal. At number 6, I have Gaspar Noé's new film called Vortex, which stars I guess he's still a film director even now, I think, Dario Argento, and also the French actress Francois Lebrun. But this film is, I think, the most depressing movie Gaspar Noé has done so far in his career. But not to say that it's a bad film at all. I don't think it's a bad film, but it's definitely one of the sadder films that he's done, and probably the saddest throughout all of his films. I think a lot of that has to do with how an honest depiction of kind of how dementia affects a person and affects especially their loved ones, coming from that, as Gaspar Noé kind of went through that with his own parents and having that relationship, and so it shows like a very honest depiction on how that and death can affect somebody's life. For me, the pacing of the film was really slow, but I think it was intentionally slow because as it's shot as a split screen performance between both characters, I think as things progress, you start to notice the small details and the small moments of when characters start to get lost, especially because of the dementia then starts to happen for one of the characters in the film. And then also you see someone's death, and it's done really well. Even though it's slow paced, you can see that over time it kind of builds these moments of despair and loss for these characters, and you feel it. You definitely feel it. Everybody in the audience when I was there was getting very emotional about certain scenes, and you could just feel how the sadness kind of creeps in slowly throughout the film. One of the scenes that I really thought was very moving was the scene between the son and his parents. I don't want to spoil which of the parents has dementia, but once you start to realize what's happening and the possibilities of the future, you kind of feel for the son, especially in that moment. And it's kind of not a surprise towards the end of what the son is doing behind the scenes, but during that moment, you kind of feel you just feel for him as a human, as a person. You just feel for his relationship with his parents and how hard they're suffering, and just what are the possibilities for the future and what to do with this person that has dementia now. But I definitely think this is a great film by Gaspar Noé. I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's definitely one of his better films, especially, even though it's very different from his previous films, which included a lot of sex and drugs and kind of a more, I guess, slightly more fast-paced approach. But I think it's very well directed, and I think it proves his point about being kind of this sad movie about death and dementia. This film I didn't see actually in the New York Film Festival, even though it's a part of the New York Film Festival. It wasn't time to go get a ticket, but I saw it at the AMC theaters, so I just included it on this list because it was part of the festival, and that is Detain, the new film by Julia Ducournau, who actually won the Palme d'Or for this movie at the Cannes Film Festival. Her first film, Raw, which follows kind of this character and about having this is for Raw mean. There's a lot of use of also body horror in this new film Detain, and I think it's very well done. These scenes, she's known for doing this kind of more horror type of genre now, but the scenes of body horror are obviously well executed in the film, and it's just crazy how she does it. And it follows two actors mainly, which is Roselle, which is I believe is her first job as an actress in this film, and she's great in the film. I think she also should get nominated, and as well as Vincent Linden, which plays Vincent in the film, which I think they're both really great in this, and they're kind of back and forth as this relationship forms between them throughout the movie. It's just really great how they portrayed, and it's shown on the screen. As I've said before, I watched this movie at an AMC theater, but I heard that people in the Lincoln Center were actually leaving as it was going on because there was too much kind of horror elements and there's too much body horror, and there was some visceral scenes, which they are very visceral, and also nude scenes in this movie, which would, I guess, turn off some people, but they showcase kind of the character of this person that's kind of stuck in this place where she kind of doesn't like her body image. She's really like a serial killer throughout the movie, especially in the beginning, until she finds Vincent, and then they form this kind of parental relationship, and it kind of showcases how important having this type of relationship is for her, especially considering how much she hates her parents and how her parents kind of look down on her, because in the beginning of the film there's this car accident that happens and her face is kind of fucked up, so they kind of already dismiss her because of that, but also because she's obviously done like some crazy stuff, and also because of her job, I guess. Her parents kind of disown her in a way, but at the same time she's doing these terrible acts of killing people just randomly throughout the movie. Body horror in this movie is well done, and it's very shocking and visceral, especially during the scenes of how they're shot, and especially there's kind of this car scene in the movie that in its own way it kind of is like body horror, but it also uses, I guess, some sci-fi elements and how it kind of happens. And I don't want to spoil too much, but it gets kind of crazy. The themes of this movie especially is mainly about body image and how one views oneself, and also about how people view you. Also the parental relationship that Vincent has lost, and the main character is trying to reunite with this kind of messed up human being who also has body image issues himself. But it's kind of this love relationship, and more about the love that they have for each other, and this constant acceptance for each other that they don't have from the people they should have around them already, like their biological parents and just people in their life that they don't have. I really love the performances in this movie, I've said before, but also the use of color, and the soundtrack is great as well in this movie. Julie knows how to use cinematography really well and create kind of these unique images, especially that car scene, as I said before, but the opening tracking shot is also really great. I just like the way it's directed, and I would give this film an 8 out of 10 as well. The fourth movie I have on this list is Come On, Come On, which is directed by Mike Mills. This is actually the first film I've ever seen from Mike Mills, even though I've heard a lot of great things from the film 20th Century Woman, which he directed a couple years ago, but this is the first film I went into with a new director. And I gotta say, I really enjoyed this film, especially the performances given in this film. Of course, Joaquin Phoenix is in this film and he's great, but especially Woody Norman as this kid actor, which I can already see being like a future star in the making for him in the future of Hollywood. He's really great in this film. I would say even outshines Joaquin in this movie, to be honest. And everybody's great, especially the mom. There's a lot of great scenes with the mom and kind of over the phone, and how their relationship is formed and continues as Joaquin's character now enters the film. The last aspect of this film that I really enjoyed was the cinematography. I really love black and white cinematography that's digital, especially, which is utilized in this movie as they travel from city to city, from Detroit to my city of New York. And it's just really well photographed, especially there's a lot of frame within frame scenes. And I just love the black and white, and kind of gives this kind of wholesome feeling and very warm feeling to the movie. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I think you guys should go watch it when it's available. It's also released from A24. I recommend you guys watching it, and I give this movie an 8 out of 10. And number 3, this is a film that is actually also a first-time director for me, getting to see like Mike Mills, as I talked before. And his name is Ryusuke Hamaguchi. He's known for creating a lot of these kind of longer form epic dramas in a way, which I didn't what I kind of knew about or heard about going into it. And so this movie comes in at 3 hours, even though it doesn't feel like 3 hours at all for me. At least it wasn't. It never bored me in any second. Like from the beginning, it just kind of developed as this great epic of a drama and melodrama movie. There's also some mystery elements, I think, in this movie. Hidetoshi Nishijima and Tokomiro are the two stars that lead this film, and they're both really great in it, especially Hidetoshi. And their performances throughout this movie is just really great. All the actors actually are just really great. Some of the best acting I think I saw throughout the whole festival in this film. And it just shows how a great cast can deliver great performances and tell a story that still is about acting in general, because the film follows this kind of stage actor who's also a direct stage director and is working on theater, and the whole movie itself is almost like a long play, even though it fits really well for the film format, as it takes place surrounding his car. This film follows the stage actor who's also a stage director after a tragic loss that happens in the first, I would say, 20 minutes of the film. It kind of follows his journey after this loss that he's had, and it just shows how it strongly affects him and also affects his workspace. The themes and ideas in the film are kind of around accepting this loss that this loss that the stage actor now has, and kind of living with that, and trying to find closure with that as he progresses throughout the movie. Something that I really thought was original from the movie is that it uses international actors. There's one actress that's also in the movie that is deaf, and it's just a great scene in it between the stage actor and his producer, which I thought was really great. And also there's a Taiwanese actress who speaks English, and it just showcases how Hamaguchi utilizes different languages within a film. This film became an inspiration I heard for Hamaguchi after reading a short story by Murakami called "Drive My Car," and I believe he changed kind of like the color of the car, which is yellow, and then he changed it to red. But regardless of that, I think the movie is really great, and it shows a great melodrama epic can be done in 3 hours, and it uses that time very well. It gets in and out of scenes when they need to. And I just think it's a really well piece of work. I would give this film also another 8 out of 10. And I think you guys should go check it out. And number 2, I have Sean Baker's third film, Red Rocket, which stars Simon Rex as the main protagonist. And I think it's definitely the funniest film by Sean Baker. I think out of all his films, this is definitely the lightest in terms of having such a heavy drama compartment to it. Even though it does have the drama compartment to it, I think its main focus is on character development, just showing how great a character can be, such as Simon Rex, which plays a former porn star at this point and kind of comes back home to Texas. And he's just constantly being extremely charismatic and energetic throughout the whole movie. He definitely deserves, I think, an Oscar nomination for his performance, even though I don't think it will happen because of the content in this movie. It might be seen too, I guess, trivial, or it just might not be seen as something that people would want to watch, maybe. As previous films from Sean Baker, I like the way that he utilizes actors and using non-actors and professional actors within his movies, and just makes it even more realistic, to be honest. He does that with, obviously, the drug dealers in the movie. And also, I think the friend of Mikey is also a non-professional actor, and he just knows how to mix these elements really well, and it just creates an even greater performance for Mikey. Actress in the movie is Susanna Sun, who plays Strawberry, and she's really great as this kind of supposed to be kind of more naive, even though at first she's very naive, but then slowly you start to figure out that she's smarter than she looks. And I just think that the relationship between her and Mikey's character are kind of what drives this film. I think it's the most entertaining movie I saw during the festival, and it's credit to Sean Baker. I would definitely give this movie an 8 out of 10, and I think you guys should go check it out as well. And at number 1, I have the new film and the sequel, the companion sequel to the first Souvenir, which is Joanna Hogg's Souvenir Part 2. Me, compared to the first movie, I actually really enjoyed this one more. And I think it's because of the element of kind of how this movie is very meta, and the sequences between how it is to be a director and what it means to use experience from your own life to tell these stories. And it just follows again, Honor Swinton, which is obviously Tilda Swinton's daughter, in the film, and how she kind of developed her own form of directing, which is also a depiction of how Joanna Hogg herself uses her own experience to tell the story. Works really well as a companion piece because it shows how she develops as a filmmaker, but also shows the relationship she has with the film crew that she's with. And also Richard Oye is in this, which he's great as, and he was in the first film, and he's just even funnier in this film, which just makes the movie even better. A kind of an issue I had with the first one was that I kept watching Honor's character and I thought she was just very naive and was very, I guess, kind of dumb to pick up on certain things about her partner at the time. But compared to this one, I think she kind of definitely steps up as a better character and even smarter, and just using her experience of what she felt in the first movie, which with her kind of pretty bad relationship, and then utilizes that to create her short film within this film, which I thought was shot really well and executed really well by Joanna Hogg. I think this movie is really great, and you guys should go check it out. Especially if you've seen the first part, I think you'll enjoy this one maybe even more, like I did. But I think you guys should go check it out. I'll give this movie an 8 out of 10. So guys, those were my 8 films that I just finished talking about that I saw at the New York Film Festival. Outside of obviously Detain, which I saw at AMC. But I thought a lot of these films were really great, and they offered a more, I guess, independent style of cinema that obviously is shown in previous New York Film Festival and also other film festivals, which I thought was great to see for the first time for me as well. Outside of The Part of the Dog, I think the other films are definitely worth watching, especially if you guys could find a ticket available or showing time when they come out. I think some of them are gonna come out either November and December, so you guys should definitely check them out when you can. Thanks guys for watching. Hope you guys have a good one.